Hey everyone, my name is Danielle Kucera and I'm a product marketing manager here at Okta. I'm going to be presenting today alongside David Shackelford. He's a director on our product team, and we're going to be talking about workflows for customer identity. It launches today, yay, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what it does, why we built it, and what's in store for the future. So let's jump right in. As many of you know, identity is more fragmented and complex than ever before, which makes digital transformations much more difficult. Whether it's B2B, B2C, partner, vendor, every organization, no matter the industry, whether it's healthcare, e-commerce, software, security, or finance, needs help simplifying the complex problem of identity so that you guys can focus on what really matters, which is creating great customer experiences. Creating a great customer experience requires constantly managing a ton of different things. Your customers want what they want, when they want it, wherever in the world they are, on whichever device they happen to be closest to at that moment. And if you tailor their experiences to them, if you personalize them, they'll happily give you their loyalty. But if you violate their security or their privacy, if you misuse their personal data, they'll abandon your brand in a heartbeat and they won't come back. These aren't easy standards to meet, we know that. And your customers demand that you meet every one of them all of the time without fail. To make things even harder, each point of this journey has its own complex set of integration and automation needs, whether that's security, usability, regulatory compliance. Integrations really run the gamut. Your SIAM solution is only as good as how integrated it is. Each of these integration needs maps to a team, and these teams span across your organization. Identity is critical for more than just the identity team. That's sort of the point of this. It's a common thread throughout your entire customer experience and every team that impacts it. And in order to meet all of these needs across these customer touchpoints and teams across your organization, you need a few things. You need extensive APIs so that you can program your platform to meet these complex customer requirements. You need hooks and events that can trigger automation and integration at the right time and at the right place. And you need the right integration to the right solutions and the flexibility to make it yours. Whatever your tech stack looks like today, it's different for every organization. And you need easy ways to build that automation no matter who you are, whether you're a career developer or you have little coding experience. So our goal at Okta is to give you a range of ways to interact with integrating Okta into other systems and in a way that meets you where you are, no matter what level of development experience you may have. This means whether you're a career developer who's looking to reduce mundane code, you may love writing code, but that doesn't mean you want to write every line of code out there. Or whether you have little coding experience, or maybe you just don't have the time, you can integrate Okta in a way that meets your needs. All right, so this is a reminder that Okta Workflows is one part of a really powerful customer identity platform that's here to help you create great customer experiences. And we're building this out across the board. But today, let's dig into workflows. So workflows is a no-code solution that lets you automate any identity scenario. If you're familiar with if this, then that products, it follows the same logic, so it allows you to integrate many systems together and add automation and logic on top of that. And again, this is all without code. This happens via some of the components at the bottom of this slide that you can see. So first and foremost, we have our no-code flow designer. It allows you to easily drag and drop and integrate things with just the click of a mouse, really. And it's pretty cool. David will jump into it in the demo. We have our connector library, which consists of pre-built connectors like Marketo and Shopify and Mixpanel and a lot more, Salesforce. And the cool thing about our connector library is that it actually is unlimited, because with workflows, you can connect to any API without writing code. So it doesn't matter if we build a connector or not already, even though we're constantly adding connectors to our library. We really provide the flexibility for you to connect to anything you like. This is all built on top of Okta events and hooks, so you'll see those visualized in the no-code designer. And the automation engine, which is, I think, the most exciting part of this, it allows you to automate away all those manual tasks in identity, have peace of mind that the right thing is happening at the right time. A little history. Last year, we launched Okta Workflows for Lifecycle Management, which allowed you to automate identity-centric processes for employees. For example, in addition to granting an employee access to Salesforce, you could assign them to the correct sales territory, send them a welcome message over Office 365 or Slack. This year, we're launching Okta Workflows for Customer Identity, which allows you to take similar actions for customers and also do much more than that, which I'll jump into in a second. We're also looking toward the future and thinking about identity governance, security, and more. So watch out for that in the coming months. Right, so like I mentioned before, we offer pre-built connectors to services such as OneTrust, like you see here, and Marketo, HubSpot, Onfido, Mixpanel, Salesforce, lots more. But the amazing thing about this product is that it allows you to connect to any public API. So the possibilities are really endless. This means you can connect to whatever service you currently use for marketing automation, analytics, privacy, consent, ID proofing, you name it, and automate identity-related processes across it. Ultimately, this means that admins, architects, and developers, and really whoever is relevant in your organization, can automate processes across the apps, APIs, and technology stacks that they're using every day. You can really think of Okta Workflows for customer identity as a no-code automation layer across your entire customer identity technology stack. All right, so let's get into the use cases that we've been validating with our customers for really the past year. I want to caveat that these use cases are jumping off points for your imagination. There's so much that you can do with this platform, but we think these are some of the most exciting ones. So first we have registering and creating identities. We also have syncing and provisioning, which is a data orchestration use case, which we think is very exciting, and streamlining operations. So on the register and create identity side, this is really your ID proofing flows, your identity validation flows, provisional access, ensuring easy registration in or out of band. Next, we have syncing and provisioning, and this is syncing identity data across disparate tech stacks. So that could be marketing, privacy, analytics, really anything that you can think of. And this could be when somebody registers, you're sending all of their attributes and data to the correct place at the right time. And last, we have streamlining operations. One of the biggest pain points for our customers is manual work on the back end, writing custom scripts, and Workflows is a great way to automate those things across the board, whether it's spreadsheet malaise or just a custom script you really don't want to write. All right, so let's jump in and get a little more tangible with these use cases. The first one we have is registering and creating identities. On the top here, you'll see an alumni use case. If an end user registers, we are looking to see in Microsoft Dynamics if they're on an approved list, and this just means we're checking to see if they are an alumni. And then we're adding them to an Octa group with special entitlements and granting them immediate access to certain gated website content that's meant for alumni. On the bottom here, we have an ID proofing example. If a consumer registers for a deposit account on a banking app where they have to prove who they are, we're identity proofing them with Evident ID. That's an Okta partner, but you could really use whatever service you like here. And then we're doing things based on the territory they're in. So if they're in the US East sales territory, we're sending a notification to the relevant local salesperson to go ahead and follow up via Microsoft Teams. Next, we have syncing and provisioning. So the top one here is really a vendor or extended workforce use case. Here we have a partner registering in a portal. If the partner is on an approved list that we're checking via a third-party API, then we're provisioning them access to the right downstream tools like Slack or Office 365. And then we're looking to see if they're inactive and deprovisioning them if they are for a certain period of time. On the bottom here, we have that data orchestration use case that I was mentioning. So on the left, you'll see an Okta profile is updated. And then we're checking to see if this person exists or not in a downstream system. So in this case, maybe a marketing automation system. And if they do not exist, we're going to go ahead and create a user in that system. And in a system where maybe they already do exist, like OneTrust, we're just logging the preference changes that they've made to their profile in that service. OneTrust is one of the leading privacy and consent solutions out there. Last, we have streamlining operations. These are just two examples. What this is really going to help you with is reducing operational manual work on the back end and custom code in really whatever way you need to. The first example here is sort of lightweight reporting. So we're automatically compiling a spreadsheet of certain lifecycle events that an admin may care about, and then sending it to that admin on, let's say, a weekly basis, or sending it out to a team on a monthly basis. The cool thing about this one is that it shows that you can run a workflow on a schedule versus based on an event, so you can have it run as often as you like, maybe once a week. And the second one here is replacing a custom script with a workflow. So here you have a system profile updated event. If a user is in a certain group, you're going to do some lightweight data transformation, maybe combining a first and last name so that a third-party app can read and accept that data. It's just one example of how you can replace your custom code with a workflow. Lots more out there. And really Really, like I mentioned, these are jumping off points for your imagination. So we're so excited to see what you do with this. And to make these even more real, I'm going to hand it off to David to jump into the demo.
Okay, so let's hop into the product and see how it works. So I'm going to get there by going over to my Okta admin console and then clicking on the Workflows menu. And that'll open up the Workflows console here. On the left, these folders each represent an identity use case that you could automate with Workflows. And on the top, we've got Home, which is this folder, Connections, which are the inbound and outbound integrations into the Workflows platform, and Templates, which we'll cover later. Probably the best way to figure out kind of what's going on with Workflows is to see a flow in action, so let's go ahead and look at one. We'll start with an example around synchronizing customer identities into a downstream CRM tool like Marketo. So this is a pretty straightforward flow, and we'll walk through it step by step. So each flow starts with an event, which could be an event from the system log in Okta, it could be an event from third-party tools, and flows can also run on a schedule or triggered directly by an API endpoint, and we'll look at one of those later. In this case, a flow is triggered every time a user is created in Okta. And you can see that the event has all this rich metadata about the Okta user, about the event, different headers. You can get at quite a bit of information here. But what I want to do here is get a little bit more metadata about that user from their profile. So I'm going to feed in the Okta's user ID into this read user card, and it's going to return all these different properties. Now this is also a good place if I wanted to insert any kind of compliance check or other logic before passing the lead downstream. For example, I could set a condition based on the state of the country that the user is in that means that the flow will only continue if some condition is met. And I can do that by clicking this little plus here and adding a function. Functions are little logical operators in workflows that let you add advanced control to the different flows. So here we'll add, say, continue if. And if, for example, we only wanted to move forward with this flow if the person was from Oregon, we could feed their state there, test it against the state that we want, and then if it did match, the whole flow would continue, and if it did not, this flow would end. This is also a place where you could put in a check for custom terms of service or other consent-related metadata on the user's profile. Okay, so assuming we're continuing on, now we want to populate this lead into Marketo. So the first thing that we're going to do is look up the lead in Marketo to see if they already exist. So here I'm taking my primary email from the Octa user profile, and I'm dragging it into the search field in Marketo. And what's going to return, if the lead exists, is a bunch of metadata about that lead. So it'll tell us the record that Marketo has for first name, middle name, last name, email, and phone number. So after that, we have an if-else statement that basically says, if this lead already exists, we're going to update the lead. So if an ID, an existing ID, comes back in the Marketo response, we're going to update this lead with fresher information from Okta. And that's if the ID is not empty. Now in the other case, if it is empty, we're going to go ahead and create that lead. And we're going to create them with all that metadata that we're mapping in here. And that's it. Very straightforward flow. Also quite similar in construction to the workforce use cases that we often serve with workflows, where we're provisioning employees into work apps for access. The main difference here is usually with a flow like this, we're triggering from a user being created or maybe a user being added to a group, whereas with our workforce use cases, we're triggering based on a user being assigned to an application. Okay, let's check out a little bit fancier flow. Let's check out one around new user registration, where we're going to use a background verification tool called Marketo to provide higher level of identity assurance about a new registrant to our site. So this one's a little bit more complex, but I'll walk you through it. This one again starts out with an Okta user being created, and again, we're taking that user ID and we're going back to Okta to get more information about the user. However, then we're going to do something a little bit different. Basically, what we're going to do here is we're going to take that user's first name, last name, and primary email, and we're going to construct a request to the Marketo API. And basically, this is going to create that user in this tool called Onfido as somebody that's called an applicant. This is somebody who is in the system waiting for additional documents or verification to be uploaded so that their identity can be verified. For example, so that their photo can be checked against the photo on their driver's license. So we're going to send across first name, last name, and email in a request body over to Onfido. And they're going to return an applicant ID here. And this applicant ID is going to let us keep track of that Onfido user in Octa. And so what we're going to do is take that applicant ID from Onfido, and we're going to update our Octa user with a custom field including that. So now the Octa user profile has their applicant ID. So what does this actually look like for the end user? Well, basically, when they register for my service, they're going to be created downstream in Onfido, and then they'll go through a process, say via an app, to provide some additional information to prove that they are who they say they are. So now let's look at the second part of the flow in Octa. Since we don't know how long the check is going to take to do, it could be seconds, it could be minutes, it could be hours, we want a flow that's going to allow us to listen for a message from Onfido. So unlike the last one that started with an Octa event, this starts with an API endpoint. So we expose a URL that a third-party service can call to let us know that something's happened. In this case, Onfido is going to call to let us know that the check is complete. So here we're going to receive that API call. We're going to check for the integrity of the body. Then we'll make one more call out to Onfido to get details of that check. And what we'll get back from that is the check status, the result, report IDs, and then the applicant ID. And if you remember, the applicant ID was what we stored on the Octa user profile. So now we can go back and get that right Octa user, and we can take the check result, whether it was clear, completed, whatever, and store it back on the profile. And now we've got this piece of metadata that we can use to make decisions about access to resources or applications or any other identity decisions that we want to make. And then just to make sure that this all worked out, if we go over to our universal directory in Octa, we can see this clear result here, right next to the applicant ID. So we've basically done end-to-end identity verification, automated between Octa and Onfido, all without needing to write code. Pretty cool. One last piece worth showing here is flow history. So when you're writing flows, this is a great way to debug and make sure everything's doing what you would expect it to do. And basically what you get with flow history is every time a flow executes, you can see all of the data passing throughout each card. And if something goes wrong, you know exactly where it stopped. You can replay just that specific card. You can replay the flow as a whole. You can try different test values. And it makes it really, really easy to debug and refine the flow as you go. So here we can see that initial API call from Onfido, passing through a bunch of these different cards, going back out to Onfido, and then coming back with the applicant ID and that clear status that we put on the profile. So hopefully that was a good view into some of the customer identity flows that you can build out with workflows. The last piece that's worth showing off before we get back to the deck would be templates. Now, workflows is very powerful, but it can also be kind of intimidating. If you're looking at that blank flow designer trying to implement the scenario in your head, or maybe even wondering exactly where to get started. And that's why we built Workflows Templates, which is a gallery of common identity flows for our top use cases that let you not only understand what you can do with workflows, but understand the right way to build it and have an easy way to kind of scaffold your first flow so that you can extend it. There's many different templates in here for workforce, for customer identity, and general platform and utility ones as well. And each one of these comes with robust setup documentation as well as a video walkthrough on YouTube. It makes it really easy to understand what this flow is, why you might want to use it, and how to use it successfully. And if you want to, you can add it to your org in one click and start building from there. Okay, there is your quick tour through the Workflows platform. Now let's get back to the deck and look at some customer examples as well as what's coming up next in the roadmap. Okay, so hopefully this was a good view of what the platform looks like in action. Let's talk through a few specific customers as well. So first up, we have Bain & Company, who also have a deep dive session if you'd like to learn more. They have a large alumni network, and they had challenges with failed logins for users who don't log in very often. Using workflows, they were able to automate account creation and MFA enrollment, ultimately letting them get away from easily forgotten passwords and ensure easy login for their community. We also work with Nuvolo, a B2B software company that enables connected workplaces. This team had a rapidly growing customer base supported by a small IT team and a tedious manual provisioning process for new customers and partners. Using workflows, they set up flows that automatically sync client and partner data across Salesforce, Okta, and their own Nuvolo Connect platform. This eliminated error-prone manual work and gave them back time that they could then apply to other projects. So now let's dive into the roadmap and where we're taking workflows going forward. As a reminder, Workflows is a common platform spanning both workforce and customer identity. So here we'll be covering some of the new capabilities coming down the pipe across both use cases. It's been a big year in 2020, from our workforce GA at last Octane until today when we're launching our second major product. We've been continuously adding connectors to our catalog as we support new use cases as well as deepening existing ones. We've also been adding more Okta surface area to the Workflows connector and making sure that we're staying ahead of our creative customer base in both scale and performance. And then, of course, along the way, we've been looking for opportunities to improve the developer experience and reduce friction for our Workflows builders. But we've got a lot more coming up. This year, we're investing in a few different areas that are super important for our customer identity customers. First is serving even more SIAM use cases with an expanded Octa Integration network. Next is supporting our Workflows builders with a great developer experience. And finally, going deeper into the rest of the Okta platform and enabling all of our customers to automate more of Okta. So let's start with the Okta Integration Network. We're making a big push this year to expand the Okta Integration Network for SIAM with rich integrations to all the tools that you care about. You may have seen the new OIN catalog with entries for social login, identity proofing, dev tools, and more. But what you might not know is that Workflows connectors are now in the catalog as well. You can see not only which integrations have corresponding connectors and templates, but also exactly which actions they support. Speaking of connectors, we'll be launching a bunch more this coming year. You're seeing both Workforce and SIAM here because we think about connector development holistically and also see a lot of common use of popular apps across both customer types. Now, this isn't everything we're shipping, but a few important ones to call out. First, look out for deeper integrations with Slack, Zendesk, and Google, as well as new connectors to Opsgenie, Freshservice, and Microsoft Teams. Now, these are very popular for workforce lifecycle management, but they're also super useful for those operational use cases Danielle called out, when you need to add notification, incident response, reporting, or collaboration to a certain flow. As we go deeper into our more focused SIAM integrations, we'll be deepening ID proofing and privacy scenarios with OneTrust and Evident ID, and we'll also be launching new connectors to Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Adobe, Onfido, and others. But the thing is, no matter how fast we build connectors in-house, customers will always want more. And so one of the things we're most excited about in the next year is launching our third-party connector builder so that anyone can build their own integrations into the Workflows platform. It's built right on top of that no-code designer that we showed in the demo, so anyone who can build a workflow can also build a connector. This one's hitting beta quite shortly, so reach out through your Okta representative if you're interested. And so now on to some of the developer experience improvements for our Flowgrammers. First up is one that's been long awaited, flow version management. Version management's a critical part of the software development lifecycle, and it's just as important when you're building flows. Our builders want a way to export, backup, revert, and safely make changes to all their flows, and we're excited to bring that to them. There's a long roadmap ahead here, but we're starting out with a beta that's live now, enabling automated flow backup to GitHub alongside templates that make it super easy to set up. And we'll be iterating from there. Next up is flow history. Flow history is a super important tool for debugging flows and understanding what happened with each execution. But as our customers build more and more complex flows, processing more and more data, they need better ways to search and filter their history to find the exact execution that they're looking for. So we're adding text search and more powerful filtering options so you can find what went on with a flow, tweak it, and get back to building as quickly as possible. And then on top of all that, we're continuing to go deeper with how Workflows integrates with the rest of the Okta platform. Now, we're always adding new event hooks and Okta APIs, but we're also looking to better integrate with inline hooks later this year to serve use cases where you want to customize Okta decisions in flight. You'll also see integration with the Okta system log and other ways to more easily connect what's going on in the Workflows platform with the rest of Okta. Our bigger vision, though, is for every Okta customer to be able to use Workflows to extend and automate all the different products they use. So look out for more in this area later this year. To wrap up, we have a very robust and active Workflows community with regular customer office hours where you can speak with an expert live and get some personal help with the platform. We also love hearing from customers, so feel free to drop us a line at workflows@okta.com. And finally, if you'd like to learn more about Workflows, here are some of the other talks at Octane covering customer identity use cases on the product. Thanks again, and we'd love to see what you build.